I think poets get wrong their reason for writing. My identity is, identifying with, wow. Sorry, we start with hammers. Yeah, right. Just go ahead and just go right into it. Um, I think, my identity is understanding all classes of the Black American struggle. Being a college graduate myself, that's not my story. However, I know people where that is their story, where the lack of opportunity, disenfranchisement that all Black Americans face, becomes a vessel that takes them to crime. So that's where my personality shows, is understanding the Black American experience in its totality, even if it's not my personal experience. He don't look for beef. He don't look for beef. What's interesting is I wrote that poem. It was a supposed to be an introduction for an album of a rapper friend of mine named Graffiti Jones. He called me one night and we were talking, and he was just talking about he wanted to do this album called Hungry, and he talked about you know what his concept was for it. And I got off the phone with him, and I remember the line I kept hearing in my head: he don't look for beef. He don't look for beef. And it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to go to sleep. And then the next line comes, but he's from the belly of the beast, and a nigga gotta eat. And it's like, before you know it, I couldn't go to sleep till I finished the poem. And so before you know it, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I got it. And I got absolutely no sleep. So, the poem was done, but I got no sleep at all. So yeah, that's typically that's how the poem came to me. But it really was just my buddy saying, this is my concept for this album that I want to do. He never did the album, but I was able to get the poem out of it. About me, that authenticity is very important in my writing. I want people to know that I did my best to be authentic, that if I was telling my story, then I was telling it from the most authentic place. And if I'm not telling my story, then I'm telling it from a place where I've done a lot of research. I truly have a belief that if a poem does not teach me something, then it's not useful for the audience that is going to consume it. And so, whether that's just learning something for a metaphor, or, like in this particular poem, I say, you know, he ain't Franklin Roosevelt and you can tighten your belt. Well, I had to go back and remember Franklin Roosevelt wrote the New Deal. So when we start talking about poverty in America, the New Deal is a benchmark. Well, I had to research that in order to be able to put it in the poem and understand what that was. So that line taught me something. And so, with that being said, if anybody is going back reading that or listening to that, they say, well, why did he reference Franklin Roosevelt? When you reference Franklin Roosevelt, one of the first things that comes up is the New Deal. And so that's kind of the way that I like to write. It's like breadcrumbs to teach you something. Like, if you are interested in what it is that I'm saying, then you're going to research it, because that's the type of guy that I am. And that's how the rappers that I really listen to, or the poets that I read, those are the people that I love, that let me learn something by reading you or listening you or studying your work. What do the poets get wrong? Ed Mabry taught a workshop one time. I was in Savannah, Georgia, it's about 10 years ago. And he said, you should ask yourself three questions every time you get on stage. Why am I performing? Why am I performing this poem? And why am I performing this poem right now? And I think a lot of poets don't answer those questions honestly to themselves. And that's, where they get wrong. Or, why am I writing this poem? You can, extrapolate it out to that. Why am I writing this poem? Um, and the thing is that if you're honest with yourself about why you are writing this poem or why you are performing this poem, you'll never write the wrong poem. You'll never perform the wrong poem. But you have to be honest with yourself. And I think that's the struggle that poets have is, am I writing this because I like the attention I think it's going to bring? Or am I writing this because this is what's truly in my heart? And I think that's one of the things that with poetry, because it is probably the cheapest art form to practice, because you don't necessarily need any lessons. If you got a pen and a pad, you can say that I'm a poet. Heck, you got so many freestyle poets now, you don't even need a pen and a pad anymore. But the thing is that you have to be honest with yourself about why it is that you're doing this. And as long as you're honest with yourself about why you're doing this, then you'll never go wrong. I think the issue that we see is a lot of times poets struggle with being honest with themselves. Oh, dot, dot, dot. Got you. Ellipsis point. Got you. All right. A successful poem. Okay. A successful poem will enrich the lives of those who consume it, will entertain and educate, will and capture the consumer in whatever world the poem is creating. Think about like J.K. Rowling, right? Create not J.K. Rowling. Is J.K. Rowling that did Harry Potter? Okay, all right. So think about J.K. Right. So think okay. So you think about that because you looked at me. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Did I just say? I was like, did I say J.R.R. Tolkien or did I say J? Okay, but you think about J.K. Rowling. She created this world that we believe of wizards and wizardry and magic and all of this stuff, and we believed it. And for 10 movies now, we've believed that George Lucas created this world with, what is it, 12, 13 movies and a whole bunch of cartoons and video games. He's created this world and we believe it. A good poem creates a world that we are able to live in and believe. Like that's what a good poem does. It literally creates this world where if I say that the sky is purple, you believe that the sky is purple because the poem is so well written that the sky is purple. I mean, even good music. Think about it. Purple Rain. How many of us questioned rain doesn't come down purple? No, it's Prince. The rain was purple. We don't ask any questions about his purple badness. That's what happens. That's what a good poem does. I think it encaptures its audience into the world that it creates and allows them to live in it for however long that poem is. Yes. I feel like I gave good answers.
You gave great answers. And we're also thinking about like, right, we don't want to publish 4 essays in a row that are necessarily about the same thing.